The Vakari pack leader, Thornax, watched with growing unease as the human researcher moved through the observation dome. The bipedal creature knelt beside the feeding station where two Vakari cubs, barely 3 months old, sat motionless, their silver fur dull with hunger. They had refused sustenance for 2 planetary rotations now. The human, a xenobiologist named Marcus Webb, had arrived on their moon colony 6 cycles ago to study their species. At first, the pack had been wary. Humans were notorious across the Galactic Council for their emotional volatility and peculiar attachment to creatures not their own. But this one had been respectful, keeping his distance, observing their hunting rituals and social hierarchies with what seemed like genuine fascination. Now, however, something had gone terribly wrong. The cubs, offspring of Thornax's second-in-command who had fallen to the crimson fever last month, had bonded with the human. It was unprecedented. Vakari cubs imprinted on their pack, not on alien visitors. Yet these two had followed Marcus everywhere, their small chirps of contentment echoing through the research facility whenever he appeared. 3 days ago, Marcus had been called away. An emergency on the human vessel in orbit. He'd promised to return, but the cubs didn't understand promises. They only understood absence. Thornax approached the cubs slowly, pushing a fresh carcass toward them with his snout. The larger cub, a female they'd named Silverstreak, didn't even glance at the meat. Her eyes remained fixed on the door where the human had departed. "This is madness," Vakari's medical officer, Kessa, growled beside Thornax. "They're starving themselves. We must force-feed them before their organs begin to fail." Thornax's throat rumbled with worry. In their species' long history, cubs had survived the loss of parents, the destruction of dens, even the harsh winters of their homeworld. But this was different. This was something in their psychology that evolution hadn't prepared them for. The pack had tried everything. They brought the cubs their favorite foods. They'd had their biological mother's sister attempt to nurse them. They'd even played recordings of Marcus's voice, but the cubs had only grown more agitated, crying out for the physical presence that wasn't there. Then, on the morning of the 4th day, the airlock hissed open. Marcus stumbled through, his pressure suit still half attached, his face drawn with exhaustion. He'd clearly pushed every regulation to get back faster. The moment the cubs saw him, they erupted into motion, scrambling across the floor with desperate squeals. What happened next will be debated in Vakari council chambers for generations. The human dropped to his knees and gathered both cubs against his chest. And then, incomprehensibly, water began leaking from his eyes. The pack had learned this was called crying, an involuntary stress response. But Marcus was also making a sound that resembled their own purring, and his hands moved over the cub's fur with a gentleness that spoke of genuine anguish. "I'm sorry," he whispered, the translator rendering his words into their clicking language. "I'm so sorry. They wouldn't let me leave earlier." I tried to explain. He pulled out food capsules from his pack, specially formulated for Vakari cubs. As he fed them by hand, speaking softly in his strange human language, both cubs finally began to eat. Slowly at first, then with increasing vigor. Thornax watched in stunned silence. The human hadn't just fed them. He'd performed what the pack recognized as a grief ritual, acknowledging his failure to return as promised, seeking forgiveness from creatures who couldn't even speak. Later, as the cubs slept curled against Marcus's legs, Kessa approached Thornax. "I've never seen anything like this." The human treated their suffering as if it were his own. Thornax's ears flicked in agreement. Their species forms pack bonds across impossible boundaries. It's not logic. It's not even survival instinct. Then what is it? The pack leader looked at Marcus, who sat motionless to avoid disturbing the sleeping cubs, despite the obvious discomfort of his position. "Perhaps," Thornax said quietly, "it's something we've forgotten in our centuries of civilization. Perhaps it's something only humans remember, that caring for the helpless requires no reason beyond the fact that they're helpless." The human would stay another 6 months. By then, the cubs would be strong enough to rejoin the pack fully. but they would always carry something strange in their hearts. A bond with a creature from across the stars who had taught them that family wasn't just about species. It was about who showed up when you needed them most.